Hi there, I'm Georgina Bisby. Thank you for joining me again. If you've been following my renovation and extension series, you'll know that I'm trying to take on some of the work myself to save some cash. And today I am talking about plastering. Is plastering a DIY job? I'm going to find out. So stick around because I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide to plastering if you've never done it before like me either. I'm going to show you what you need to do the job, how much it costs, how to prepare the walls ready to stick the plaster on, how to mix it and then how to get it on the walls so that it sticks, hopefully. But I've also got some secret cheats that have been passed on to me that I'll share with you as well, so stick around. Okay, so first and foremost, what do you need to do the job? Well, I've got a selection of the items here, but you need some PVA. This is available for about £9 for 5 litres from various places like Selco. You need your hawk, your plasterer's hawk, and your trowel as well. These are your two important tools. I think these you can pick up for about £8, that's the cheapest I could find it for. In terms of the trowels, in actual fact you can get these from about £5, but they're pretty useless. Generally most people would say spend from about £20 onwards to get a reasonable one of these, or it's just going to be such hard work. Definitely don't go to the pound shop for that one. You need a few buckets, you need obviously some plaster, some multi-finish plaster. That's available from around £6 for a bag. One more thing that you might want that isn't necessarily essential is a paddle mixer. You can actually pick up these ends and use them in most powerful drills. You can do it, but you can use a stick. It depends how much plastering you've got to do really, how much you want to spend on the equipment, whether or not you can borrow any. But something to mix the plaster with you need anyway, one way or another. So what I've got here is some self-adhesive scrim. This is fiberglass scrim, and basically we're gonna, because we're showing you how to plaster onto plasterboard here, we're just gonna cover up these cracks here, these joints here, because otherwise the plaster will crack once it's on if you don't do that. So it's important not to over whisk it. It's a little bit like baking where if you overdo it, it can start to cook it a bit and then it goes off really quickly. But just keep adding water and plaster until you get a consistency that's pretty much just smooth and creamy consistency, and it needs to stick to the trowel when you lift the trowel up, so that'll be a clue as well. So you can fish this out the bucket if you're just plastering a small area, but a spot board like this does make it easier to scoop off when you're doing the job. So I'm just going to pour some out here. Okay, so first top tip is that it's really important to work cleanly, because if you have old plaster where you haven't washed out the bucket that you perhaps mixed 20 minutes ago and then it mixes with new plaster, it'll then make that new plaster go off too quickly. So I was talking about PVA earlier, and this is something that you might be wanting to use if it's your first time plastering and if you're plastering onto a difficult surface. Because we're plastering straight onto this plasterboard, we're going to work without it. But basically, if you do use this, follow the directions on the back of the packet. It's a dilution of about 5:1, and you want to put it on well before you start plastering. So possibly even the day before to be sure that it's completely dry. And then once you plaster onto it, it reactivates it. But it just gives you a bit more time to work with the plaster. It means that it goes off slower, so you've got a bit more time to get the job done. Equally, at the other end of the spectrum, for professional plasters, it's too slow. It would make the job too slow for them, so they don't want to use it. But weigh it up, see what kind of surface you're working with, and see if it helps you out. So because I'm right-handed, I'm starting on the left-hand side of the wall because that helps with the sweeping across. it's a bit of a mess so far. I have dropped a few bits on the floor, but that's actually why I put this bit of board down, because if you've got something clean that you can put on the floor, it stops you from getting bits of grit and dirt in it, because it's a disaster if you end up getting them on, because then just going to ruin your finish, which is obviously perfect. But seriously, if you can clean the floor, it's going to really, really help you out, because you're bound to drop it if you're not a professional, and you can then just stick it straight back up on the wall. So the biggest tip that I've been given, apparently the biggest thing that novices usually get wrong with plastering, is spending too much time trying to smooth it out at an early stage, whereas you're better off just getting it on the wall. So I better get on with it. I managed to get it all on the wall. It was a little bit close there. It's really, really heated up in the UK today, and this is what happens with our weather. It's balmy because it was really cold this morning, but we're up to sort of 20 today. So it's going off really quickly. I really wasn't sure if I was going to get it all on the wall, but I've done it. And it looks, from here, it actually looks pretty smooth. But what you actually find is if you shone a light from the side, you would see that it's not actually flat. And apparently this isn't uncommon even in professional jobs. So there really is room for improvement. And thankfully there's a trick that I can use to help. So this is what we need now. This is called a speed skim, and this basically, instead of having to use the trowel to flatten it all out now, you can use this, which works in seconds instead. Some professional plasterers have come round to these, but I think they're still causing a little bit of disagreement in the plastering community about whether or not they're a good thing or a bad thing. The purists avoid them, but I'll just show you how easy it is to use. And also, you don't necessarily need this speed skim device. You can just use a piece of flexible plastic if you can find one. So watch this.
So you need to apply a reasonable amount of pressure when you use this, because basically you're trying to just even it all out.
So actually, looking at that, now I've done that, that is not a terrible finish. If I got a bit of sandpaper on it once it had dried and gave it a light sanding over and painted it, I wouldn't be that unhappy. So I am still a bit concerned because I've still got some lines in my walls, but apparently it's all going to be okay. Now, this is where the magic is going to happen. This is my secret weapon, and it's a sponge float, which you can get from anywhere like Selco. Not too expensive, but make sure that you get one that's for plastering and not for rendering, because they're much more coarse for rendering. But basically, I've got some water here in an old spray bottle, emptied that out and filled up the water. And I'm just going to spray the walls lightly. I've seen other people do this on YouTube. I haven't actually tried this yet, but it looks like it would be easy and it'll work. So spray the water, but you don't want to have too much water running down the wall. And then I just need to glide over with this and watch what happens. finishing off this space now. Just a couple of little bits more to iron out, but really I'm almost there and I'm really happy with it. It's ready to be painted almost once it's dried off, so I have to put a dilute coat on that first of all, of course, and it's job done. So to answer the question, is plastering a DIY job? I would say yes, but with the proviso that I certainly wouldn't take on any big jobs because it would just simply take me too long. And I do have a confession to make, which is that this space here is actually going to be a cupboard. So I knew that if it all went wrong, it wasn't a space that people were going to see anyway. So it was a really good place to practice. And apparently that's what they do, give the kind of jobs they give to apprentices anyway, is like under stairs and cupboards and places where people don't see them immediately, because everyone has got to start somewhere, haven't they? But I've actually really enjoyed it, and that's perhaps the main thing. So I'm going to be taking on loads more tasks. I'm going to work my way through the rest of the jobs in this house really and see what I think is a DIY job and what isn't. And everyone's different. Everyone's, you know, level of skills and potential is different, and time, I think. For me, I'm still working, I've got kids, so I didn't have an infinite amount of time to spend doing this, but I'm really pleased with what I've done. For the moment, I'll probably stick just to cupboards, but who knows, one day I might even come out of the closet. But there'll definitely be loads more like this, so please stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Bye-bye.